Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something a little different. As you can see, my new setup, we'll be focusing on these shelves today. These are my boyfriend's shelves. There's technically another one across the room, but there's only Terry Pratchett and Brandon Sanderson books on there, so I don't feel the need to show you those. But today, I am going through all the books that I want to read that are on my boyfriend's shelf. I have read some of the books, actually a lot more than I realized. I think a lot because of the Boyfriend Picks My TBR video. I read, I think, 4 of his books on his shelf. But in this video, I will be picking out what I want to read from his shelf, as well as showing you what I've already read on his shelf. So let's get right into it. I know you can't really see the bottom 2 shelves, so I'll figure out how to insert that once I figure it out. I'm gonna pick my books first, and then I'm going to turn over the books that I have already read so you can see kind of on the shelf. And I'll talk you through what those are so you know which ones I've read. And then I will give you synopsises for all the books that I picked. So I finished picking out the books that I want to read, so now I'm going to flip around the books that I have already read, starting with Jade City, which I plan on doing a video specifically talking about why I did not like this book, so stay tuned for that eventually. I'm messing up his bookshelves, he's going to be so annoyed. I did read Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've read Parable of the Sower. Maybe I should have done it the other way around because there's a lot less books and it's kind of moving around like crazy, so oops. Now moving down to the lower shelves. I have read Flowers for Algernon, The House of the Spirits, The Secret History, Devil House, and The Fire Next Time. And then down here I read Mexican Gothic, Tender is the Flesh, and Pet Sematary. And I think that's it. You can barely see what I've read already. It's not that much, but in comparison to how many books he does have and the big series he has, I think it's a pretty good amount. How many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. There's 3 on a bottom shelf that you can't see, but I think that's a good start. Now, how many do we have that I want to read is the question. There's 4 here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 13. So more than I've already read, so this will be interesting. Some of these books you've definitely heard of and are not new to you, but I will be talking through and reading the backs of them so I can learn more about them. Starting with The Farthest Shore by Ursula K. Le Guin. This one, I have been wanting to read The Wizard of Earthsea, so I don't know where this fits within her whole world. I know this is the first book of one of the trilogies, at least that's what the back says, so I'm not sure if I need to read other books before I get to this one, but I do want to read a lot from her, and I hope I like her. This one is part of the Earthsea cycle. You know, very classic fantasy. Next we have Parable of the Talents. I'm not going to read the back of this because it is the second book in the Parable of the Sower duology. I have already read Parable of the Sower this year, so I'm hoping to get to this one next year. Though it is kind of intimidating because I know it's going to be depressing because the first book was, so we'll see how long it takes me to get to the second one. Another Octavia Butler book I want to read is Bloodchild. I believe this is a short story collection. Named a New York Times Notable Book of the Year and now supplemented with new stories, Bloodchild and Other Stories is renowned author Octavia E. Butler's only collection of shorter work and features the Hugo and Nebula award-winning stories Bloodchild and Speech Sounds. These works of the imagination are parables of the contemporary world. Butler proves constant individual, an unblinking pessimist hoping to be proven wrong, and one of contemporary literature's strongest voices. So, yes, collection of short stories. I love her writing and her work, so very curious to see what short versions read like. Next one I've talked about a few times on this channel, but I don't think I've officially said that I have it, but it is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I love Asian-inspired fantasy war worlds, like She Who Became the Sun. I believe that one is probably the most similar to this one because it is based on real Chinese history, I believe. So I've heard this one is good. It's just a trilogy, so it's a little daunting to me to pick up, and it's long. So I will get to it eventually because I really like R.F. Kuang's writing. But yeah, I know it's going to be rough. So I'll read you the back. When war orphan Rin aced the Keju, the empire-wide test to find the most talented youth to learn at the academies, she surprised everyone, test officials, the guardians who wanted to marry her off and further their criminal enterprise, and even herself. But being a dark-skinned peasant girl from the south is not easy at Sinigard, the most elite military school in Nikan. Targeted by rival classmates for her color, poverty, and gender, Rin discovers that gods long thought dead are very much alive, and that she possesses a lethal, unearthly power and aptitude for the nearly mythical art of shamanism that could be the weapon the Empire desperately needs. While Nikara is at peace, its enemy and former occupiers, the Federation of Mugen, bides its time, and a third Poppy War is just a spark away. Rin's shamanic powers may be the only way to save her people, yet as she discovers more about the god that has chosen her, the Vengeful Phoenix, she fears that winning the war may cost her humanity, and it may already be too late. Sounds right up my alley, you know, dark war. Yeah. Next one is a recent read and pick that my boyfriend did while we were in Switzerland. This is My Death by Lisa Tuttle. It is a novella, and he absolutely loved it and wanted me to read it right away. So I told him I would eventually, and he got spooked by it, and I'm very curious why. So it is intriguing to me. I'll read the back. The narrator of Lisa Tuttle's uncanny novella is a recent widow, a writer adrift. Not only has she lost her husband, but her muse seems to have deserted her altogether. Her agent summons her to Edinburgh to discuss her next book. What will she tell him? At once the answer comes to her. She will write the biography of Helen Ralston, best known, if at all, as the subject of W. E. Logan's much-reproduced painting Circe, and the inspiration for his classic children's book, Hermine in Cloudland. But Ralston was a novelist and artist in her own right. Though her writing is no longer in print, in her most radical painting, My Death seemed too unsettling, malevolent even, to be shown in public. Over the weeks that follow, Ralston proves an astonishingly cooperative subject, even as her biographer uncovers eerie resonances between the older woman's history and her own. Whose life is she writing, really? Sounds pretty interesting and dark and unique and weird, so right up my alley as well. The next one is a bit controversial. I don't really know how I feel about this author anymore. Neil Gaiman, basically, this is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I know there's some stuff that's come out about him recently that is not the best, but I don't know if I'm willing to read his books regardless or not. So if I did, I would start with this one, as it's very prettily illustrated. But that being said, this one is kind of undecided. You know, I don't really know. I don't know how I feel about reading works of authors that have done awful things. Even music, you know, anything in the world. Like, I have mixed feelings about it in general, so maybe I'll do some more research on what really happened and then decide from there. The next book is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I really want to read something else from James Baldwin. I've only read his essays, and I want to read some fiction from him. And this one is short as well, and I've heard amazing things about this. I feel like everyone's heard amazing things about this. My boyfriend has already read it, so I'm kind of jealous, and I want to read this sooner rather than later. I'll read you the back. Set in the 1950s Paris of American expatriates, liaisons, and violence, a young man finds himself caught between desire and conventional morality. With a sharp, probing imagination, James Baldwin's now classic narrative delves into the mystery of loving and creates a moving, highly controversial story of death and passion that reveals the unspoken complexities of the human heart. I know it will be sad and depressing, but I love his writing, so hopefully that'll make up for it. Another sad one is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I know this one will be really hard to read, but I've only read one Toni Morrison book, Song of Solomon, in high school, and I just was not at the mental capacity to read books like that and like fully understand them at the time. That's why I kind of want to go back and reread all of the popular classic books that we had to read in high school, because I didn't really read them. I spark noted everything. So I feel like now, as an adult, I can fully appreciate her writing, and I know this one is one of her most well-known works. I don't think Kaylin has read this one yet, so I'll read you the back. Staring unflinchingly into the abyss of slavery, this spellbinding novel transforms history into a story as powerful as Exodus and as intimate as a lullaby. Seth, its protagonist, was born a slave and escaped to Ohio, but 18 years later she is still not free. She has too many memories of Sweet Home, the beautiful farm where so many hideous things happened, and Seth's new home is haunted by the ghost of her baby, who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with a single word, Beloved. Filled with bitter poetry and suspense, as taut as a rope, Beloved is a towering achievement by Nobel Prize laureate Toni Morrison. Yeah. These two are both Kurt Vonnegut books. As I said a while ago, I want to read all of Kurt Vonnegut's books at some point throughout my life. That will take a long time because there are so many books, but here are two more. I have technically read this already. Another high school read that I don't think I fully comprehended at the time. I read this in Cat's Cradle in high school, and I definitely liked Cat's Cradle more, but this one I want to give a reread. And then Player Piano is another one Kaylin has already read and really enjoyed, so I am curious about this one as well. And I still have Galapagos on my list, so more Kurt Vonnegut to come. The next one is the next Stephen King book I want to read. This is Salem's Lot. I wanted to read something not as long as 11/22/63. I think that's the right date, because that one is huge and I want to read more from Stephen King before I decide to commit to that one. This one is like the mass market paperback, so it's not really that long. It's just short and compact. So I might pick this one next. My boyfriend thinks I'll like it, so I will trust him on that. This one is about Ben Mears has returned to Jerusalem's Lot in the hopes that living in an old mansion, long the subject of town lore, will help him cast out his own devils and provide inspiration for his new book. But when two young boys venture into the woods and only one comes out alive, Mears begins to realize that there may be something sinister at work and that his hometown is under siege by forces of darkness far beyond his control. Another spooky, very similar premise, I feel like, to Pet Sematary in a way, but probably not at all. That's just the only book I've read from him, so. The next one is one I've been very interested in reading. Kaylin has already read this one as well, and that is The Fisherman by John Langan. This one is an interesting one. It's technically a horror novel, I think. So in upstate New York, in the woods around Woodstock, Dutchman's Creek flows out of the Ashokin Reservoir. Steep-banked, fast-moving, it offers the promise of fine fishing and of something more, a possibility too fantastic to be true. When Abe and Dan, two widowers who have found solace in each other's company in a shared passion for fishing, hear rumors of the creek and what might be found there, the remedy to both their losses, they dismiss it as just another fish story. Soon, though, the men find themselves drawn into a tale as deep and old as the reservoir. It's a tale of dark pacts, of long-buried secrets, and of a mysterious figure known as Dare Fisher, the fisherman. It will bring Abe and Dan face to face with all that they have lost and with the price they must pay to regain it. Maybe some sort of like deal with the devil type situation. I don't know. But sounds interesting to me, and the cover is really cool. And last but not least, we have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I have yet to read a Grady Hendrix book. These are horror books, I believe. But Kaylin, as soon as he finished this, was like, you need to read this. I want you to read this. Though he told me it will be very frustrating for me to read, so it's not really enticing me that much, but I do want to read something from Grady Hendrix, and I might as well do one that we already own. There's no back. So let me see if there's... It's in the front page. I'll read you that. Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic, her teenage kids have their own lives. Her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. Then James Harris walks into her life during the summer of 1993. He makes her feel things she hasn't felt in years. But when children on the other side of town go missing, Patricia wonders if he's connected. Is he a Brad Pitt, a Bundy, or something much worse? Sounds fun and like a good read, so I will get to it eventually, just like the rest of these books. And that wraps up everything I want to read from my boyfriend's bookshelf at the moment. This could change. He buys books too, not as many as I do, but maybe we'll do a check-in in a year. I think this is a good start. 13 books, not too shabby. Now I have to go put these all back and remember what order they were in. So wish me luck. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye!